The new OpenCore Legacy Patcher 0.6.3 was just released with the new macOS 13.3.1. And especially if you own an old iMac, this version might bring a relief. But let's talk about all the bug fixes and new features that this version brings to you. So basically, the OpenCore Legacy Patcher releases just follow the releases of macOS versions. 0.6.2 was released with macOS 13.3, and I talk about that in this video, if this is now the holy grail for the Mac Pros. And with 13.3.1, now the OpenCore Legacy Patcher 0.6.3 was released. And it also fixes some bugs that with 0.6.2 were still there. And especially if you own an old iMac, you have now an issue fixed where you could have kernel panic or where you could have faulty graphics. And that is one thing I'd like to stress a little bit, that you don't get confused with all the numbering. When we talk about macOS, then it's actually the newest version 13.3.1. That is macOS Ventura. OpenCore, that is the bootloader that is used to enable this unsupported macOS on your Mac, is here integrated with the version 0.9.1. That is OpenCore. And the OpenCore Legacy Patcher is a package of OpenCore, of an installer and of certain settings, and the download feature and everything packed into a legacy patcher, and that patcher has the version number 0.6.3. Now let's go through the changelog of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher to talk about the features and the bug fixes in detail. With macOS 13.3, Apple removed some parts of old graphic drivers, and the developers had to re-implement them with OpenCore Legacy Patcher 0.6.2. But as this was the first try and the first version of the re-implemented graphic drivers, there were some minor bugs that the developers now with version 0.6.3 try to get rid of. There's a Safari rendering with Safari version 16.4, and especially the rendering of some third-party apps. And in the comments to my video, a lot of you guys asked, there are problems with GarageBand, there are problems with Blender or with other software that you use that just quits when you start it, or when you're working with it unexpectedly quit because they have graphic rendering issues. And that is what the developers tried to fix, and the problems arose on Intel Ivy Bridge, on Intel Haswell, and especially with NVIDIA Kepler GPUs. Just for completion, Intel Ivy Bridge is the Intel i3 or 5 or 7 series that starts with a 3000 number, and the Haswell series starts with a 4000 number. Intel i3, i5, i7, and then 4000 whatever. The NVIDIA Kepler GPUs are the GT or GTX series starting with 600 or with 700. And they're all built around 2012 and 13. So if you have an iMac or MacBook or whatever, a Mac from that year range, then you can check if you have an Intel chip with a 3000 or 4000 number, or with an NVIDIA graphic card that is a 600 or a 700 series. So if you have hardware around 2012 or 13, this might be affected by that graphic glitch, and this is a good chance that when you install 0.6.3, and don't forget to install the root patch after booting into the new OpenCore, that these issues are fixed. The developers now implemented the full I/O USB host family and fixed a kernel panic issue with the old iMacs due to USB. As you already know from my last video, that in Ventura, Apple just got rid of all USB 1.1 drivers and doesn't support the USB 1.1 controllers anymore. And that is one of the reasons, for instance, with the Mac Pro Cheese Grater, that you have to use a USB 2.0 hub to force the Mac Pro to use the USB 2.0 controller instead of the controller for USB 1.1, which is not supported anymore until you have OpenCore up and running and the root patch installed. For the certain iMac models, there was still, with version 0.6.2 on macOS Ventura 13.3, there was still a kernel panic issue due to the USB drivers. And these should be fixed by now. And I see a good chance, as the devs are still working on the USB drivers, that maybe we get a USB 1.1 driver into OpenCore that could handle also USB 3.0 cards, like an extension card for the Mac Pro. And I talked about this in my previous video. So if you haven't yet, I would recommend you subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss any updates or don't miss any video. Otherwise, there are not more or new features added to the new OpenCore Legacy Patch 0.6.3. There was a lot done behind the curtain in the back end, so to make the KDK download more reliable, to get rid of unused KDKs that weren't deleted correctly, and they upgraded from the OpenCore version 0.9.0 to 0.9.1. Just one word more about another package that I got a lot of questions and comments, and that is Martin Lowe. Martin Lowe has created a package like the OpenCore Legacy Patcher, but it's not that kind of a UI and not so user-friendly. OpenCore package especially for the Mac Pro Cheese Grater. So if anyone hears about Martin Lowe's package, that's only for the Mac Pro Cheese Grater 4.1 or 5.1, and I think 3.2 and 1.1 are also supported, but I cannot test that. And this package is only for macOS 12 Monterey, for the latest version of Monterey, but not for macOS Ventura, as this is really kind of still in a beta condition. And so if you want to use a Mac Pro Cheese Grater with Monterey, then you can use Martin Lowe's package, but only if you already have set up the OpenCore. So I recommend that, and I give you the link to Martin Core's post down in the video description, and you can always download the latest version down there. And so that was the reason why I mentioned the numbering, because Martin Lowe takes the numbering of OpenCore for his packages. So he creates a package for OpenCore 0.9.0, 0.9.1 and so on, that has nothing to do with the legacy patch numbering 0.6.3. And if you have set up a Mac Pro Cheese Grater with Monterey, because officially the latest macOS that the Cheese Grater can run is macOS Mojave, that is 10.14, then you can mount the EFI volume and just get rid of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher stuff, and you extract Martin Lowe's package into the EFI volume, reboot, and then it's using his package. And his package is specifically tailored to the Mac Pro Cheese Grater, and you get some features, but I don't want to explain every detail right now. And you get some other features and another philosophy how to use OpenCore for the Cheese Grater. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss any news. And the next video will be the second part of my Ventura on Mac Pro videos about the Mac Pro 6.1 from 2013, the trash can, and if that is worth running Ventura right now. And obviously with the latest OpenCore Legacy Patch 0.6.3. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.